Destroy the old you and rebuild yourself alone. Burn the mask, meet your soul. There was a time I stood in front of the mirror and did not recognize the man staring back at me. His eyes were tired not from lack of sleep, but from carrying the weight of pretending. His posture was forced, shaped by years of being who he thought he had to be, never who he truly was. There was noise in his silence, and yet no one around him heard it. Not the friends who laughed at his jokes, not the family who praised his achievements, not even the lovers who said they loved him, because they were all loving the mask. And the mask was cracking. It always cracks when the soul starts screaming for truth. You see, the real pain in life is not failure. It is success in the wrong thing. It is applause for a role you never wanted to play. It is the emptiness that follows winning a game that was never yours to begin with. Most people are not lost. They are buried. Buried beneath expectation trauma, fake identities, and survival habits that no longer serve them. They know something is off, but they do not know how to explain it. So they keep moving like a ghost trapped in a body it does not belong to, smiling, achieving, surviving, but never living. This book is not for the faint-hearted. It is not for the ones who want a few quotes to feel better. This is for the ones who are ready to set fire to the version of themselves they built out of fear. It is for the ones who know deep in the marrow of their bones that they were never meant to live like this, that there is more, that the prison they live in is made of lies they once believed, and that the key is not in someone else's hand. It is in their own decision to destroy what no longer serves them and walk alone into the unknown. Here is the truth. No one is coming to save you. Not your partner, not your parents, not your friends, not your mentors. You save yourself. You resurrect yourself. You sit in the ashes of who you used to be, and from that sacred dust you rebuild, brick by brick, alone. Not because you are unloved, but because this kind of transformation requires solitude. There is a silence that reveals things noise never can. And there is a strength born only in those who dare to stand alone long enough to meet their real self. The old you was built to survive, and thank it for that. It kept you alive. It helped you navigate pain. It carried your dreams through storms. But it is not equipped for your future. It is time to let that version die, not with hate, but with honor, because transformation is not rejection. It is release. Release of guilt, fear, shame, and the need to fit in. The new you is not built in the presence of comfort. It is born in the wilderness, in the nights when no one texts, in the mornings when no one checks, in the moments when you choose to stand even when no one claps. You must understand this destruction is not a tragedy if it leads to rebirth. When the caterpillar dissolves in the cocoon, it does not mourn. It surrenders. When the forest burns, it makes room for richer soil. When the heart breaks, it opens the door to deeper love. But only if you choose not to cling to the ashes. Only if you choose not to keep reassembling the old identity just because it is familiar. The enemy is not pain. It is your addiction to what feels safe. And nothing beautiful grows in safety. You grow when you risk becoming unrecognizable. The core philosophy of this book is simple. Your next life begins when your current identity ends. You do not upgrade yourself. You replace yourself. You shed the skin. You burn the scripts. You cut the strings tied to who you thought you had to be. This is the journey of unbecoming. You must become no one before you can become someone new. Do not rush to rebuild. First, grieve. Grieve the false self. Mourn the years you wore masks. Say goodbye to the persona that earned approval at the cost of your soul. Then, in that stillness, a whisper will rise. That whisper is you. The world will not understand at first. They will call you cold, distant, arrogant, lost, because they only knew the old version of you. And it is easier to mock a soul on fire than to face their own apathy. Let them talk. You are not doing this for them. You are doing it for the child in you who still dreams, the warrior in you who still fights, and the future in you who still believes. Do not explain your healing to those committed to misunderstanding you. Some journeys are not meant to be applauded. They are meant to be sacred. So if you are reading this with a lump in your throat, with tears that have not yet fallen, with a storm inside you that you can no longer ignore, then I ask you to make a vow, not to me, but to yourself. Vow to destroy what is false. Vow to be brutally honest. Vow to stay when it gets lonely. Vow to protect the new you at all costs. Because the moment you begin this journey, everything you once built on lies will resist you. But do not fear that resistance. It is a sign you are waking up. This is not a chapter. This is a funeral. A funeral for the version of you that people liked because it made them comfortable. And after the funeral, there is silence. And in that silence, there is power. Because now, finally, you can hear yourself again. Chapter 1. From Silence to Sovereignty. There is a particular kind of silence that follows the breaking of illusions. It is not peaceful. It is not calm. It is haunting. It echoes with the voices of who you used to be. It wraps itself around your decisions like fog and demands that you question everything. It is in this silence that most people turn back, not because they are weak, but because they have never learned how to sit with themselves. They reach for distractions, for validations, for someone to rescue them from their own depth. But this chapter is not about turning back. This is about claiming your sovereignty, about becoming the kind of person who does not fear the silence, but listens to it. Because in that stillness, truth begins to speak. Do you know why so many people stay stuck in the same cycles for years? It is not because they are incapable. It is because their entire life is built on noise. Noise from parents who told them who they should be. Noise from society that tells them what success looks like. Noise from relationships that reward compliance and punish authenticity. They never stop long enough to ask, what do I really want? Who am I without the roles I play? What part of me is real and what part is a costume stitched together by survival? And so they move through life like actors in a play. They never wrote applauded for their performance, but empty in their core. Breaking free from this pattern begins with brutal honesty. You must stop pretending you do not know what is wrong. You do. You feel it when you wake up in the morning and dread the day. You feel it in the conversations where you cannot speak freely. You feel it in the relationships where love feels more like a transaction than a sanctuary. And you especially feel it when you are alone and the mask begins to slip and the truth begins to whisper, this is not it. This is not you. And the longer you ignore that whisper, the louder the pain becomes. Not because life is cruel, but because your soul refuses to die quietly. Here is the dangerous lie that keeps people stuck. I will change when things calm down, but life never calms down. And healing does not wait for convenience. There is no perfect moment to begin. The house may be burning, the job may be draining, the marriage may be dying, and still you must begin. Because waiting only deepens the wound. You must choose yourself now, not because it is easy, but because if you do not, no one else will. You must become the person who does not wait to be chosen, but chooses. Chooses to rise, chooses to walk, chooses to rebuild alone with or without applause. The struggle, of course, is that choosing yourself often feels like betrayal. You worry that if you walk away, you will hurt others, that if you speak your truth, you will be misunderstood, that if you take space, you will be labeled selfish, and maybe all of that will happen. But what is the cost of staying silent? What is the cost of betraying yourself for the comfort of others? There is a loneliness that comes from walking alone, but there is a deeper loneliness that comes from abandoning your soul just to keep the peace. One is temporary, the other is a lifetime of regret. Choose wisely. The human mind is a fortress, but it is often guarded by the enemy. Fear builds the walls, guilt locks the doors, doubt posts the guards. And you wonder why you cannot move forward. You think you need motivation. No, What you need is rebellion, a sacred rebellion against every belief that says you are not enough, a holy war against the systems in your mind that tell you to shrink. You were not born to be tame. You were not born to be pleasing. You were born to be whole. And wholeness does not come from being perfect. It comes from being honest, and honesty begins in silence. I know the fear. I know the nights when your own mind becomes a battlefield, when the voices say you are too broken. It is too late. You will be alone forever, but those voices are not yours. They are echoes of old programming, and every time you listen to them, you reinforce a prison that never had a lock. The door has always been open, but walking through it requires sacrifice, the sacrifice of certainty, the sacrifice of approval, the sacrifice of the old story. And that is the price of sovereignty, letting go of who you were supposed to be so you can become who you truly are. Let me tell you something most people never hear. You are allowed to start over, as many times as it takes. You are allowed to disappear for a while, to go silent, to heal without explaining, to rebuild in private. You do not owe anyone access to your pain. You do not need to prove your progress. This journey is not a performance, it is a resurrection, and resurrection is messy. It looks like crying in your car. It looks like deleting old numbers. It looks like saying no when your voice shakes. But each act of self-respect is a brick in the new foundation, and one day, without realizing it, you will wake up and feel peace. Not because life is perfect, but because you finally are. The practical step here is not complicated. Begin with 10 minutes of silence each day. Sit with your thoughts. Let the discomfort rise. Journal what you feel without judgment. Pay attention to what makes you shrink, and more importantly, to what makes you light up. Stop asking others what you should do. Start asking yourself what you are afraid to admit. The answers are not outside you. They never were. You are not lost. You are hidden beneath layers of fear and conditioning. Peel them back, one breath at a time. As you do this, expect resistance, not just from others, but from within. Your own mind will try to pull you back into old habits. Your own heart will try to convince you that being alone is dangerous. That is normal. It is the death rattle of your old identity. Let it scream. Let it burn, but do not go back. You are not meant to return to what broke you. You are meant to rise into what you have never been, and the only way to do that is to walk forward, even if your legs shake, even if your voice trembles. Walk forward anyway. This chapter ends with a mirror. Not a physical one, but a mirror made of truth. Look into it. See the parts of you that still beg for permission. See the wounds that still define your choices. See the dreams you buried to make others comfortable, and then decide. Decide to choose yourself even if no one claps. Decide to build a life so true it does not need validation. Decide to be sovereign, because once you do, everything begins to change. Not because the world shifts, but because you do. And that is enough. Chapter 2. The Art of Dying While Alive. There is a peculiar ache that settles in your chest when you know something inside you must die, but your hands tremble at the thought of letting go. It is not the death of the body, it is the death of identity. The unraveling of stories you have lived by for years. Stories like, I am not enough, I am too damaged, I need others to tell me who I am. These stories do not just vanish, they cling like skin, they scream as they burn, and yet you must let them, because transformation is not gentle. It is fire, and fire does not negotiate with what it consumes. It purifies by destruction. Most people confuse survival with life, but they are not the same. Survival is repetition. Wake up, perform, please, hide, sleep, repeat. Life, on the other hand, is movement. It is raw and uncertain. It demands risk. It calls you to step beyond the roles that once made you feel safe. And here lies the battle. Safety is addictive. Familiar pain is still familiar, so we choose it over the unknown. We cling to dysfunction because at least it has a name. But true freedom only begins when you dare to let that version of yourself die, not improved, not modified, dead. Why do people resist change even when they are miserable? Because identity is addictive. Even a painful identity gives us a map. I am the one who always sacrifices. I am the one who gets left behind. I am the one who must fix everything. These roles become a twisted form of comfort. They give us a script, a place, a purpose. Without them, who are we? That is the terrifying question. And yet it is the only question worth asking. Because when you finally say, I do not know who I am anymore, you are closer to truth than ever before. The unknown is not the enemy. It is the womb of reinvention. Picture this: a forest after a fire, blackened trees, ash-covered soil, silence, devastation. But look closer. Under the ash, new life begins. Seeds germinate, roots dig deep. The soil is richer than before. That is what happens when the old you dies. You stand in the ashes empty, but for the first time the soil of your soul is fertile. It can finally grow what is real, not what you were told to be, not what earned approval, but what your soul was always whispering for, and that whisper grows loudest when the old noise is gone. You may feel lost in this season, detached, disoriented. That is a sign you are doing it right. Identity death is like being in the ocean with no shore in sight, no land to cling to, just water, just sky, just you. And it is there, when you cannot return to who you were and cannot yet see who you will become, that you meet your essence. Your truest self does not speak in performance. It speaks in stillness. It speaks when everything false has been stripped away. So let it. Let yourself be undone. Let yourself be unmade. Only then can something new begin. Here is the shift that changes everything. You are not here to find yourself. You are here to create yourself. That is the difference between healing and rebirth. Healing says, let me fix what is broken. Rebirth says, let me become someone who has never existed before. The caterpillar does not become a better caterpillar. It dissolves into nothing, and from that nothing the butterfly emerges. Do not settle for healing that only polishes the cage. Burn the cage. And if that means you lose people, comfort, applause, so be it. What you lose in safety, you gain in sovereignty. Think of a snake shedding its skin. It does not cling to the old layer. It writhes until the past breaks away. That is how you must treat your old self. Do not try to carry it forward. Do not mourn its loss. Celebrate it. Thank it for what it gave, and then release it. Because the new you cannot breathe in the suffocation of old patterns. Every time you choose honesty over performance, every time you choose solitude over fake connection, every time you choose truth over peace, you shed the skin. And though it hurts, it is holy. This is where many people get confused. They think healing will feel good, but real healing often feels like dying, because it is. Dying to the part of you that tolerated abuse. Dying to the version that kept quiet to stay loved. Dying to the you who only knew how to survive, not thrive. So if it feels like everything is falling apart, good, let it fall. That collapse is sacred. That breakdown is birth. Stop trying to hold it together. Let yourself come undone. It is not the end. It is the beginning. There is a moment when you will look in the mirror and see no one. No old titles, no roles, no masks, just eyes, just breath, just presence. That is the most powerful moment of all, because now you are free. Free to write your own script. Free to define success on your terms. Free to love without losing yourself. Free to live without apology. That is what this death offers, not pain, but permission. Permission to be new, permission to be whole, permission to be you. The practical path begins here. Create rituals for release. Write letters to your old self and burn them. Speak aloud the truths you were once afraid to say. Sit in silence each day and ask, what am I still pretending? Let the answers sting. Let them strip you. You do not need 1,000 steps. You need one surrender. Surrender to the knowing that your old life must end for your real life to begin. And do not fear being alone in the process. Loneliness is not the absence of people. It is the absence of self. And as you return to yourself, even solitude becomes sacred. The truth is, you will grieve, you will cry, you will doubt, but you will also rise. You will breathe deeper, you will walk lighter. You will smile, not because life is easy, but because you are free. You are no longer a puppet pulled by invisible strings. You are no longer a mirror reflecting what others need. You are no longer a shell. You are sovereign, whole, alive. Let the old you die. Let it fall into the fire, and from that fire rise not as who you were, but as who you choose to be. Chapter 3. Walking through the wilderness of isolation. There comes a point in every great transformation where you must walk alone, not because no one loves you, but because no one else can hear the voice calling you forward. That voice is ancient. It does not speak in words, but in longing. A subtle ache in your chest, a quiet resistance to the familiar, a whisper that says, leave, begin again. Trust the unknown, most ignore it. They drown it in noise, relationships, distractions, endless motion. But the ones who rise, they listen, they obey, and in doing so they walk into the wilderness, not as punishment, but as preparation. The wilderness is not a place. It is a season, a sacred in-between. You are no longer who you were, but not yet who you are becoming. The old habits no longer fit, but the new ones are still forming. It is awkward, it is lonely, and it is necessary, because only in solitude can you meet the parts of yourself you once avoided, the fears you buried, the wounds you denied, the truths you feared would make you unlovable. The wilderness strips away the external. Titles fade, roles dissolve, and what is left is the raw, unfiltered you, vulnerable, untamed, real. At first it feels unbearable. The silence screams, the lack of validation feels like withdrawal. You reach for people who no longer feel aligned. You miss the comfort of belonging, even if it came at the cost of your soul. You wonder if you are doing something wrong. You are not. You are detoxing. You are learning how to belong to yourself again, how to sit in your own presence without flinching, how to feel your own emotions without judgment, how to walk through a day without performing. This is not regression. This is resurrection. Why do people avoid this season? Because it does not feel productive. There are no accolades for inner work. No one claps when you choose boundaries. No one celebrates the nights you cry alone instead of going back to someone who made you feel small. But make no mistake, this is the most important work you will ever do. This is the work that decides your future. Because if you skip the wilderness, you return to the old world unchanged. And you were not called to begin this journey just to end up back where you started. The wilderness teaches you who you are when no one is watching. It reveals your default programming. When there is no audience, do you still speak kindly to yourself? When there is no applause, do you still show up for your vision? When there is no hand to hold, do you still walk forward? These questions matter because the life you are rebuilding must be rooted in integrity, not performance. And integrity is not tested in public. It is forged in private, in the unseen hours, in the quiet sacrifices, in the moments where no one is watching but you. Many people ask, how long will this season last? And the answer is always the same, as long as it takes for you to stop searching for external completion. You will know you are ready to emerge when you no longer need anyone to fill your emptiness. When you can enjoy your own company. When your decisions no longer seek validation. When your peace is no longer dependent on someone else's presence. That is the mark of rebirth, not the removal of solitude, but the transformation of it. You go from fearing it to craving it, from enduring it to being empowered by it. You will face temptations here, old lovers who promise change, old friends who invite you back into old patterns. Even your own mind will whisper, maybe you were happier before. But you must remember, growth always comes with amnesia. The discomfort of now can trick you into romanticizing the pain of the past. Do not fall for it. You left for a reason, and the discomfort you feel now is not punishment. It is purification. Do not settle for half-healed. Do not stop mid-journey just because it gets heavy. This is the part where you become unshakable. Here is the shift. Instead of viewing isolation as exile, see it as elevation. This is not the season where you are forgotten. It is the season where you are forged. You are building roots so deep that no storm can uproot you. You are learning how to source joy from within. You are discovering who you are when no one else is defining you. And once you know that person, no one can take that from you. Not rejection, not betrayal, not abandonment, because you are no longer leaning on others to validate your worth. You are the validation. The practical work in this season is sacred and simple. Create space. Wake up without checking your phone. Spend time in silence before the noise begins. Journal what you feel, not what you are supposed to feel. Walk without music. Eat without distractions. Learn how to be with yourself fully. This is not isolation. This is intimacy with yourself. And from that intimacy, everything else will change. Your standards will rise, your clarity will sharpen, your energy will become magnetic, not because you tried harder, but because you finally stopped abandoning yourself. The wilderness is also where your gifts are revealed. Without the noise, you begin to hear the stirrings of your calling. The talents you once dismissed begin to surface. The passions you once buried begin to ignite. And you realize you were never lost. You were simply drowned by the noise of expectation. And now, in the quiet, you are being remembered by your own soul. This is your homecoming, not to a place, but to a self you had forgotten existed. There is power in solitude, power in choosing to be alone rather than poorly accompanied, power in building a life so full that others are not a necessity but a choice. And from that place you attract relationships that are not based on need, but on mutual wholeness. That is the difference between loneliness and solitude. One is lack, the other is strength. So stay here as long as you need. Do not rush the process. Do not chase the light before you learn how to carry it. Let the wilderness shape you. Let it break the parts of you that were built on fear. Let it teach you how to stand alone. Because when you finally step out of this season, you will not be the same. You will be grounded, whole, ready, not for applause, but for truth. Walk alone, walk slow, but keep walking. Your future is not waiting. It is unfolding one silent, sovereign step at a time. Chapter 4. Kill the echo of approval. There is a voice inside you that does not belong to you. It sounds familiar. It even sounds like love, but it is not. It is the voice of approval addiction, the whisper that says, be careful. Do not upset them. Stay small, stay soft, stay silent. You first heard it in childhood, perhaps, in the moments when your laughter was too loud and someone told you to tone it down, when your ideas were too bold and someone told you to wait your turn, when your truth was too inconvenient and someone said, that is not how we do things around here. And so you learned to shrink, to please, to become palatable. And that voice followed you into adulthood like a ghost that refuses to leave. You think it is your intuition, but it is your programming. You think it is wisdom, but it is fear in disguise. You think you are being considerate, but really, you are disappearing. One compromise at a time, one swallowed truth at a time, one fake smile at a time. And here is the tragedy: you believe this makes you lovable. But love that demands your self-erasure is not love. It is control. It is manipulation. It is performance. And the longer you chase it, the further you drift from yourself. You cannot rebuild a new self while clinging to old approval. Approval is a leash. And no matter how long the leash, it still keeps you tied. You may dance, you may succeed, you may be admired, but deep inside you know you are not free. Because the applause is not for the real you, it is for the role you play. And every round of applause becomes a chain around your throat. Sooner or later, you cannot breathe. This is why the journey of rebuilding must begin with the death of your need to be liked. You must unlearn the idea that worth is something you earn. You must confront the parts of you that still crave being chosen, even by those who never saw your value. You must realize that some people love you for your compliance, not your authenticity. And when you stop complying, they will leave. Let them. You were not born to be understood. You were born to be real. You have to kill the echo of approval before it kills your soul. That means disappointing people who benefited from your silence. That means becoming the villain in someone else's story. That means being misunderstood, even resented. But better to be hated for truth than loved for lies. Because every time you betray yourself to keep the peace, you wage war against your soul. And no external harmony is worth that internal violence. Here is why approval is so dangerous. It masquerades as love, but it is transactional, conditional. It says, if you behave this way, I will accept you. But the moment you break the script, the acceptance vanishes. Real love does not work like that. Real love expands you. It invites your evolution. It makes room for your voice. It celebrates your growth even when it outgrows the container. Anything less is not love. It is bondage. If you want to rebuild your life, you must first rebuild your self-trust. That means learning to validate your own decisions. To say, I know this is right for me even when no one else understands. To follow your instincts even when it makes others uncomfortable. To stand in your truth even when your voice shakes. This is the power of sovereignty, not being invincible but being deeply honest. Not being flawless but being faithful to your inner knowing. Think of approval like sugar. It tastes good, it gives you a rush, but it leaves you hollow. And the more you consume it, the more addicted you become. Until one day you realize, I am starving for something real. That hunger is your soul calling you home. Do not ignore it. Do not numb it. Feed it with truth, with solitude, with your own voice. That is the only diet that will ever satisfy. This is the shift. You go from asking, do they like me, to asking, do I respect who I am becoming? From will they accept this version of me to, am I aligned with my truth? From, how do I fit into, where do I belong naturally? And yes, that shift is lonely at first, because the crowd cheers loudest for the predictable. But growth is not predictable. It is disruptive. And your becoming will scare the ones who loved your smallness. So what do you do when the need for approval rises like a wave? You pause, you breathe, you ask, what would I choose if no one had an opinion about it? You anchor into that, and then you move. Not to offend, not to rebel, but to reclaim. Every small decision made in truth is a declaration of freedom, and freedom is not a destination. It is a practice, a muscle, a habit. You strengthen it one courageous choice at a time. You will lose people, that is a fact, but you will find yourself. And in finding yourself, you will attract those who see you, not the version of you that plays safe, but the raw, messy, luminous soul that dares to be real. These are the people worth building with. Not the ones who need you to shrink to love you, but the ones who say, expand, take up space, be all of you. So the next time you feel the urge to censor your truth, ask yourself, am I living to be liked or living to be free? Only one of those leads to peace. Only one leads to purpose. Only one leads home. Chapter 5. Burn the bridge. Back to comfort. There comes a moment in every transformation where you must make a decision that cannot be undone. Not a soft shift, not a trial run, a moment of finality, a burning bridge, a clear message to your soul. that says there is no going back, because without that decision you will always return to the familiar, to the mediocre comfort of your past, to the cycles that drained you but never broke you, to the version of yourself that smiled on the outside but screamed inside. The door to your new life will not open until you seal the one behind you with fire. Comfort is seductive. It whispers, "You know how to survive here. You have learned to breathe in this smallness. Why risk more?" And if you listen to it long enough, it will convince you that discomfort equals danger. But discomfort is not danger. Discomfort is growth. Discomfort is your nervous system learning how to hold more truth, more love, more integrity, more freedom. You are not in danger. You are being stretched, and the old you cannot come with you through this stretch. It was never built for elevation. That is why comfort must be destroyed, not gradually, but boldly. If you leave a bridge, you will use it. You will second guess. You will delay. You will compromise. But when the bridge is gone, when the only direction is forward, you become resourceful. You stop waiting to feel ready. You start moving with purpose. You rise with hunger. That hunger is not desperation. It is destiny. It is your soul remembering it was not born for maintenance. It was born for movement. But here is the truth. Most people never burn the bridge. They keep one foot in their old life. They leave the door cracked just in case. They say they want change, but they keep their past on speed dial. And when the discomfort of growth rises, they retreat. Not because they are weak, but because they did not fully decide. Half decisions create full chaos. They trap you between two worlds, and there is no peace in the in-between. Burning the bridge means making bold moves, quitting the job that crushes your spirit, walking away from relationships that dim your fire, saying no to patterns that once earned you survival but now cost you your future. It means doing the thing that scares you, not recklessly but with reverence, with the quiet authority of someone who has seen death in spirit, in identity and dreams, and chosen to live anyway. You are not reckless. You are reborn. The pain you feel right before you leap is not a warning. It is the final scream of your old identity. The nervous system hates endings. It equates them with death. And in a way, it is right. But this death is sacred. This death makes space. This death clears the soil. You are not ending your life. You are ending your lie. And in doing so, you are making space for a life that is not just bearable but holy. Do not expect applause. When you burn the bridge, people will panic, especially those who depended on your old version. They will tell you to slow down, to think it through, to be realistic. But what they really mean is, please stay the same. Please keep playing your role. Please do not force me to face my own stagnation. Let them talk. Their fear is not your forecast. Their limitations are not your ceiling. You are not being reckless. You are being faithful to the truth within you that refuses to die. Imagine a bird who has lived its whole life in a cage. One day the door opens. Freedom is terrifying. The sky is endless. The wind is wild. The ground is gone. And so the bird stays. Because the cage is known. The bars are familiar. But comfort is not safety. Comfort is confinement dressed in gold, and the longer you stay, the smaller your wings become, until one day they forget how to fly. That is the real danger, not leaping, but settling. So how do you burn the bridge practically? You make a list of every habit, person, belief, and environment that keeps you tethered to your old life. And you begin to sever them, with love, with gratitude, but with finality. You create boundaries so clear they feel like walls. You delete numbers. You cancel patterns. You commit publicly to the new. Not because the public matters, but because your soul needs witnesses to your rebirth. Every act of clarity is an act of liberation. There will be nights when you doubt, when you look back at the ashes and wonder if you made a mistake. That is normal. Let it come, let it pass, but do not rebuild. Do not walk back. Do not gather the ruins and try to make them beautiful again. They had their time, they served their purpose. But your life is not meant to be lived in reruns. You are the author now. And this chapter requires fire. You must understand this. You are not losing security. You are losing the illusion of it. Real security comes from within, from knowing you can rebuild, from trusting your voice, from standing in your truth even when your knees shake. That kind of security is unshakable, because it does not depend on jobs, titles, lovers, or applause. It depends on you, and you are stronger than you remember. So light the match, watch the old fall, feel the fear rise, and then walk through the flames with your head high, not because you are fearless, but because you are faithful. Faithful to the version of yourself that you have never met but always believed in. That version is waiting, not on the bridge, but on the other side. Chapter 6. The Discipline of Becoming. Becoming is not an accident. It is not a gift bestowed upon the lucky. It is not the consequence of time passing. Becoming is a discipline, a fierce, unrelenting commitment to evolution. It is waking up every day and choosing the new self even when the old self still whispers. It is facing the gravity of who you used to be and refusing to collapse. It is choosing truth over comfort, growth over convenience, reality over reputation. Becoming demands more than motivation. It demands devotion. You must understand something: the old self will not die quietly. It will plead, it will seduce, it will sabotage. Because it has built a life around your dysfunction, your patterns, your fears. It has made allies with comfort. It has forged contracts with your pain, and now you are breaking those contracts. You are disrupting the entire system. Of course, it will resist, but discipline does not negotiate with resistance. Discipline looks fear in the face and walks forward anyway. The ones who transform do not wait for the right mood. They do not seek permission from their past. They do not consult the opinions of the uncommitted. They build rituals that anchor them. They design mornings that hold them. They sculpt habits that sharpen their clarity. And in doing so, they build a structure strong enough to hold their becoming. Because becoming is fragile at first. Like fire, it can be extinguished by distraction, drowned by doubt, starved by delay. Discipline is the fuel. Without it, the flame dies. Do not romanticize growth. There are days it feels like grief. Days when everything inside you aches to return to the familiar. Days when the world outside you offers every excuse to stop. But discipline whispers one more step, one more breath, one more act of alignment. That is how you win. Not in one glorious leap, but in the quiet repetition of right action. The decision to choose yourself again and again until it is no longer a decision but a way of being. The reason most people fail is not because they are weak. It is because they confuse emotion with direction. They believe they must feel inspired to act. They believe they must be certain before they commit. But becoming does not wait for confidence. Confidence comes later. You act your way into clarity. You practice your way into alignment. You become by doing, especially when you do not feel ready, especially when everything inside you screams, "This is too much," because it is in those moments that you build the muscle of identity. The muscle that says, "This is who I am now." You must treat your becoming like a sacred vow, not something you dabble in, something you marry, something you build your life around. That means saying no to distractions disguised as obligations. That means honoring your rituals even when no one is watching. That means remembering who you are becoming, especially when the world still sees who you used to be. You are not here to prove, you are here to embody, to walk the walk before it becomes easy, to live the new truth before anyone applauds. This discipline is not punishment, it is protection. It shields the new you while it is still taking shape. It defends your peace from the demands of your past. It creates a container where your power can grow. Without it, the old habits return. The old triggers reignite. The old self reclaims the throne. And so you must be relentless, not harsh, not rigid, but unwavering, gentle with your wounds, but fierce with your boundaries, kind with your process, but ruthless with your excuses. There will be moments when you forget, when the chaos pulls you in, when you fall back into patterns. That is not failure, that is feedback. The discipline is not in never falling, it is in always returning, in remembering who you are even after you have forgotten, in choosing alignment again no matter how many times you have wandered. That is where power lives, in the return, in the refusal to give up on yourself. Let me be clear, no one is coming to save your habits. No one is going to build your routine. No one is going to create your structure. That is your job, your sacred responsibility. And if you wait for someone to force you into alignment, you will always live beneath your potential. The standard must come from within, not because the world demands it, but because your future deserves it. And this is not about perfection. This is about rhythm, flow, integrity. Some days will be strong, some days will be shaky. But if you keep showing up, something magical happens. Your new identity becomes your default. The habits you once resisted become effortless. The person you once imagined becomes real, and you realize this is not discipline anymore. This is devotion. This is love. This is the kind of freedom that only comes from self-respect. So build the schedule. Keep the promise. Move your body. Breathe your truth. Write your vision. Speak your boundaries. Sit in silence. Say no to the noise. Say yes to the slow becoming. It will not always be exciting, but it will always be holy. And one day, without fanfare, you will look in the mirror and see a stranger, not the old you, not the trying you, but the true you, quiet, grounded, whole. And in that moment, you will not feel proud. You will feel peaceful, not because you arrived, but because you became. Chapter 7. Become the architect of your reality. There is a lie the world feeds you from the moment you are born, that your life is something that happens to you, that you are a passive participant, that you are at the mercy of circumstances, other people's decisions, and the cards you were dealt. So you grow up learning to react, to adjust, to adapt. You become a master of survival. You become skilled at enduring, at hoping, at waiting. But somewhere in that quiet despair, something inside you begins to whisper, what if I could build? What if I was not here to endure life, but to design it? That whisper is not a fantasy. It is your truth rising through the cracks of your conditioning. The truth is hard to swallow at first because it demands accountability. It says no one is coming, no one owes you, and no one can stop you either. You are not a victim of fate. You are the architect of your becoming. That is not motivational fluff. That is spiritual law. Your thoughts are blueprints. Your decisions are bricks. Your actions are cement. Every single day you are building something, either a life aligned with your soul or a prison crafted from your fear. There is no neutral ground. You are either choosing consciously or letting unconscious patterns choose for you. Look at your life right now, the people around you, the habits you repeat, the way your mornings begin, the words you speak to yourself in silence. That is your architecture. You did not fall into it. You constructed it brick by brick. Even if you were handed broken tools, you still had a hand in where you used them. And the beauty of that truth is this: if you built it, you can rebuild it. If you allowed it, you can remove it. If you accepted it once, you can deny it now. The moment you claim your role as architect, you step into power. Not control over others, power over your design. But building a new reality requires clarity. You cannot design what you cannot see. That is why the work begins in the mind. You must clean the inner landscape before you lay a new foundation. That means uprooting the beliefs that tell you you are limited, that you are too old, too late, too broken. Those are weeds, not truths. They grow wild when unattended, and they choke every new seed before it sprouts. Your first act as architect is to clear the soil of your soul. Then comes vision, not fantasy, not escape, but vision grounded in desire, the real kind. Not what you are supposed to want, but what you ache for, what keeps you awake at night, what makes your chest expand, what makes you jealous. Yes, even your envy is a compass. It points to what your soul longs for but has not claimed. Do not dismiss it. Listen. Under every envy is a buried desire. Under every longing is a map. You do not need to copy someone else's blueprint. You need to trust your own. Now you plan, not with fear, not with pressure, with presence, with devotion. You ask, what kind of life would honor my energy? What kind of structure would hold my gifts? What kind of rhythm would nourish my peace? This is sacred work. It is not about hustle. It is about harmony. You are not building a machine. You are building a sanctuary, and the way you build it must reflect the truth of who you are, not the lie you learn to perform. Discipline now returns not as a burden, but as a blessing. Because building requires consistency. Not perfection, but presence. One choice at a time, one habit at a time. You learn to fall in love with the bricks. You find joy in the repetition. You measure progress in alignment, not applause. And over time, you look around and realize this life feels like home. Not because it is easy, but because it is yours. And do not be surprised when people do not understand your new structure. Some were only comfortable when you were chaotic. Some only knew how to love you in dysfunction. Your new peace will threaten their patterns. Let it. You are not building a stage. You are building a sanctuary. Not everyone will be invited in. That is not cruelty. That is clarity. You are protecting what you are building, and that is sacred. There will be storms, disruptions, setbacks, but when you have built on truth, you do not crumble. You may bend, you may pause, but you do not collapse. Because your life is no longer built on reaction. It is rooted in intention. You have scaffolding, you have structure, you have vision, and that makes you unstoppable, not because everything goes right, but because nothing can make you quit. The practical side of this chapter is not complicated, though. It is confronting. Take inventory. What in your life did you design with intention? What did you simply inherit? What did you choose consciously? What did you accept by default? Be honest. That honesty will hurt, but it will also liberate. Then begin again, one area at a time. Rebuild your mornings, redesign your environment, reclaim your calendar, edit your language. This is how architects work carefully, patiently, creatively. You are not stuck. You are simply repeating blueprints that no longer serve you. Tear them up, draw new ones, not just with hope, but with execution. Your future is not a lottery. It is a blueprint waiting for your hands. So pick up your tools, not tomorrow, today, because you are already building. The only question is, are you building something that sets you free or something that keeps you small? Chapter 8. Forgive the ghosts, not to free them, but to free yourself. There is a heaviness you carry that has nothing to do with your future and everything to do with your past. The words that were never apologized for, the hands that let go without warning, the betrayals that left you breathless, the chapters you tried to rewrite but could only reread. You carry them in your silence, in your triggers, in your armor, and every time you try to move forward, those ghosts reach for your ankles, not because they are evil, but because they are unfinished. Forgiveness is how you finish what pain tried to leave open. But let us be clear, forgiveness is not about them. It is not about letting someone off the hook. It is not about pretending it did not happen. It is not about making peace with injustice. It is about reclaiming your energy, your time, your heart. It is about saying, I choose to no longer carry what was never mine to hold. Because if you do not forgive, you drag your past into every new chapter. You poison fresh beginnings with stale wounds. You build walls that keep out both danger and love. Forgiveness does not mean reconnection. You can forgive someone and never speak to them again. You can release someone from your heart without welcoming them back into your life. That is not cruelty. That is wisdom. Some people are not safe. Some situations must remain closed. Forgiveness is not an invitation. It is a declaration. You will not control me from the past any longer. It is your soul choosing liberation over obsession, healing over replaying, peace over vengeance. But forgiveness is hard when the wound is still fresh, when the memory still stings, when justice never arrived. That is where most people get stuck. They wait to feel like forgiving, but feeling never comes first. Forgiveness is not an emotion. It is a decision, a fierce, defiant decision to stop bleeding for what someone else did. It is choosing to stop reliving the moment that broke you, not because it does not matter, but because you do. You do not forgive because they changed. You forgive because you are changing. You forgive because you are tired of holding the rope in a tug of war no one else is playing. You forgive because you are rebuilding a life too beautiful to be anchored in bitterness. You forgive because the anger that once fueled you now drains you, and because you know this resentment is a cage whose only prisoner is you. The process of forgiveness is not linear. It comes in waves. Some days you feel free. Other days the memory tightens around your chest like a fist. That is okay. Forgiveness is a practice, not a performance. It is the daily decision to release the weight even when it tries to climb back on. It is the whisper I let go, repeated in every breath, in every choice, until it becomes truth. And yes, you will be tempted to pick it back up. When the wound feels raw, when the story replays at night, when someone says their name, when a song brings them back. But remember, healing does not mean forgetting. Healing means you can remember without relapsing. It means the scar no longer bleeds. It means you tell the story not to wound, but to witness. Not to punish, but to pass through. That is how you know you are healing, not because it disappears, but because it no longer dominates. Forgiveness begins with honesty. Admit what hurt you. Admit how it shaped you. Do not minimize it. Do not justify it. Honor the impact before you release it. You cannot heal what you refuse to name, and you cannot forgive what you still lie about. Say the truth, even if your voice shakes, even if the world tells you to move on. Truth is the soil. Forgiveness is the seed. Growth is the bloom. You must also forgive yourself. This might be the hardest part, for staying too long, for ignoring the signs, for not walking away when your soul begged you to, for becoming what you needed to survive. But hear me, you did what you could with what you had. And survival is not shameful. It is sacred. But now you are not surviving, you are becoming, and that version of you deserves grace. Self-forgiveness means ending the war with your past. It means looking at younger versions of yourself and saying, I see you, I forgive you, I free you. It means understanding that regret is a teacher, not a sentence. That the pain you carry was never meant to define you, only to shape you, and that shame has no place in the architecture of your rebirth. So how do you forgive? Practically, you write, you scream, you sit in silence, you imagine the weight leaving your body. You speak their name and say, I release you. You speak your own name and say, I release me. You cut the cord, you burn the letter. You walk away not in bitterness but in blessing. You choose freedom again and again and again. Forgiveness is not weak, it is revolutionary. In a world that teaches retaliation, forgiveness is an act of rebellion. It says, I choose peace when war would be easier. I choose clarity when confusion would be safer. I choose to heal even if it hurts. That is power, that is maturity, that is leadership. And when the ghosts return, and they will, you meet them with compassion, not invitation, just recognition. You say, I remember you, I know your story, but I do not live there anymore. And then you walk forward, light, clean, free, because this is not about pretending it did not happen. It is about deciding it will no longer happen to you again. Chapter 9. Choose the pain that heals. There are two kinds of pain in this life, one that keeps you trapped and one that sets you free. The first is the pain of avoidance, of burying truth, of silencing your voice, of betraying yourself again and again to stay inside the lines someone else drew for you. That pain is slow, it is subtle, it creeps in and calcifies into bitterness. You barely notice it at first, but over the years it eats at your joy, your clarity, your courage. It keeps you busy but unfulfilled, loud but unseen, surrounded but deeply alone. The second kind of pain is the one no one talks about because it is not glamorous. It is the pain of confrontation, of facing the truth you tried to outrun, of sitting in the discomfort of your wounds without numbing them, of choosing solitude over codependence, of speaking what needs to be said even when it costs you comfort. That pain is sharp, it stings, but it is clean. It does not rot, it does not fester, it cuts so that something deeper can begin to heal. Healing is not a walk in the sun, it is a descent into the fire, and most never enter because they are afraid they will not survive the burn. But here is what no one told you: you have already been burning. You have been living with a slow internal fire of resentment, shame, guilt, and fear. That is not peace. That is decay. So the choice is not between pain and no pain. The choice is between conscious pain and unconscious suffering. One ends in freedom, the other ends in regret. Choosing the pain that heals means doing what is right for your soul, not what is easy for your ego. It means letting people go who were never willing to meet you in truth. It means grieving the future you once planned with people who can no longer walk beside you. It means walking away without closure because some endings are too sacred to explain. And it means feeling everything, the tears, the rage, the loss, without numbing it with distractions or fake strength. You will be tempted to run, to dive back into old patterns, to reach out for the familiar even if it wounded you. Do not. Stay with the pain. Sit with it. Name it. Let it move through you like a storm. You are not weak for feeling. You are wise. You are breaking generations of emotional avoidance. You are reclaiming your right to feel fully and heal deeply. That is not indulgent. That is powerful. And yes, people may not understand. They may say you are too sensitive, too dramatic, too much. Let them. Your healing is not a performance. It is a private revolution. The ones who get it will find you when the storm passes. The rest were never meant to walk with you into your new season, not because they are bad, but because they are still choosing the pain that numbs. You are choosing the pain that frees. The practical side of this work is not about fixing yourself. It is about facing yourself. That means therapy, if that is your path. It means journaling without censorship. It means meditation that strips you of distraction. It means silence, even when silence feels unbearable. It means asking, what am I avoiding? What am I afraid to feel? What do I keep pretending does not hurt anymore? And then letting the answers rise without flinching. Healing is not something that happens to you. It is something you walk into naked and trembling. You do not wait until you feel ready. You do not wait until the pain is gone. You walk in with the pain. You walk in while you are still bleeding, and as you walk, something shifts. Slowly but surely the wound begins to close, not because you ignored it, but because you finally gave it space to breathe. And when you choose this kind of pain, you also choose power, because you are no longer at the mercy of your emotions. You are no longer hijacked by your reactions. You are no longer waiting for someone to apologize so you can feel peace. You realize that healing was never outside of you. It was always waiting on your decision. Your willingness to walk into the pain and not let it destroy you, but define you anew. This kind of pain will humble you. It will strip away the layers of false strength you used to wear. It will leave you raw, exposed, human. But in that humanity, you find something deeper than resilience. You find wholeness. You stop pretending you are above the ache. And in that surrender you find a deeper strength. One that is not based on how little you feel, but how bravely you feel everything. You will cry in places you once laughed. You will sit in rooms that used to feel like home and feel nothing but silence. You will revisit memories and finally tell the truth about them. And in all of this, you are not falling apart. You are falling together. You are reclaiming every piece of yourself you had to abandon to keep moving. That is not weakness. That is healing. Eventually, the pain changes. It softens. It becomes clarity. It becomes space. It becomes peace. Not because it disappeared, but because it transformed. Like fire that purifies metal, your soul will emerge stronger, cleaner, sharper, not burned, refined. So choose the pain that heals, even if it breaks your heart, even if it takes your breath, even if it isolates you for a while. Choose it because it is real. Choose it because it is necessary. Choose it because this is what self-love looks like when it stops being cute quotes and starts being sacred action. Because pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice, and healing is the path that begins when you stop running and start feeling. Chapter 10. Let identity die, so truth can rise. There is something harder than loss, harder than betrayal, harder than failure. It is the quiet ache of realizing that who you have been is no longer who you truly are. That the version of yourself you built to survive while brave, while necessary, has become a cage. And every time you try to expand, it tightens. Every time you try to breathe, it suffocates. The life you built with your old identity is collapsing, not because you did something wrong, but because your soul is demanding to evolve. Identity feels permanent. We wear it like skin. We defend it like territory. We live inside it like a house, painting the walls with our history, our roles, our reputation. But identity is not truth. It is strategy. A structure built around patterns, wounds, and expectations. It feels safe because it is familiar. But the moment you begin to grow, that safety turns to stagnation. You cannot become someone new while clinging to the scaffolding of who you used to be. There is a death that must happen, and it is not gentle, it is not symbolic, it is real. Your identity must shatter. Your name may stay the same, your face may stay the same, but your essence will rise through the rubble as something entirely unfamiliar. And this is terrifying, because you will not know how to introduce yourself to the world. You will not know what to say when someone asks who you are or what you do or what you believe. All you will know is that the answers you gave before are no longer true. That discomfort is sacred. It is not confusion. It is awakening. The ego hates awakening because it cannot control it. It cannot categorize it. It cannot monetize it. So it will fight. It will tell you that you are lost, that you are nothing without the old story, that you will be alone forever if you do not fit back into the mold. Do not listen. That is not truth. That is fear losing its grip. The world will try to pull you back. It will mirror your old identity. It will beg you to stay consistent, predictable, explainable. It will reward your performance and punish your transformation. But here is the truth. You do not owe the world your consistency. You owe your soul your honesty. And honesty will lead you away from the script. It will take you to unfamiliar places. It will introduce you to parts of yourself you forgot existed, and it will cost you everything that was built on your false identity. Let it cost you. Let it all fall. You are not here to play a role. You are here to be real, to live so aligned with your essence that your life becomes a mirror of your truth. That kind of life cannot be built on borrowed beliefs. It cannot be shaped by who others want you to be. It must rise from within. From the parts of you that were silent for too long, from the desires you pushed away to be accepted, from the truth that kept knocking while you kept pretending you did not hear. Identity death is a lonely road because people do not fall in love with your truth. They fall in love with your patterns, your familiarity, your predictability. And when you start to shift, they feel threatened. not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are reflecting back the parts of them that are still asleep. Some will shame you. Some will mock you. Some will leave. Let them. Your rebirth is not up for debate. This is when you begin to walk alone again, but this time with reverence, not in despair but in devotion, not in fear but in faith. You begin to see solitude not as exile but as sanctuary, a sacred space where you are no longer performing, no longer adjusting, no longer bending. You are simply being. And in that being, you begin to see glimpses of who you truly are. Not a role, not a reaction, a presence, an awareness, a being who does not need to prove anything to exist fully. You start to speak differently, dress differently, move differently, not because you are trying to impress, but because you are shedding. You are letting go of the layers that kept you small. You are allowing your energy to lead, your presence to speak, your intuition to choose. This is not reinvention. This is resurrection, a return not to who you were, but to who you were before the world told you who to be. And in this return, something incredible happens. You no longer chase alignment. You become it. You no longer ask for clarity. You embody it. You no longer fear rejection. Because you know deeply wholly that being rejected for your truth is better than being loved for your disguise. Let identity die. Let it rot. Let it return to dust. And from that dust begin to build not a better mask, but a new foundation. One rooted in inner truth, not outer applause. One shaped by real values, not survival scripts. One that does not beg to be seen, but shines naturally because it no longer needs to hide. Do this work and you will lose things, people, patterns, familiarity. But you will gain something greater, yourself. And when you have yourself, your real self, you are no longer manipulable, no longer controllable, no longer breakable, because your power no longer comes from outside. It lives within. So if you are in the fire right now, if everything you thought you were is falling apart, good. Stay in it. Let it burn. Mourn it. Grieve it. But do not rush to rebuild. Wait until the ashes settle. Wait until the silence becomes holy. Wait until the voice inside you says, now, let us begin again. And when you rise this time, you will rise as truth, not identity. Chapter 11. Protect the peace you paid for. You did not crawl through darkness. You did not sit in the fire. You did not tear yourself open and stitch your soul back together just to live the same life with a different filter. You did not rebuild from rubble to return to the same chaos you fought to escape. You earned this peace with blood, with sleepless nights, with choices that felt like death. And now that it is yours, you must protect it like sacred ground, because peace is not given. It is taken, built, preserved. At first, peace feels foreign, unnatural, like an empty room that used to echo with noise. And the instinct is to fill it with people, with plans, with performance. But do not. Wait. Breathe. Let the stillness settle. Let the silence speak. Because if you listen closely, you will begin to hear something you have not heard in years yourself. Not the self they told you to be. Not the self you became to survive, but the self that speaks without fear, without filter, without apology. That is what peace gives you. Space to be, to exist without justification, to wake up and not dread the day, to walk into a room and not scan for threats, to breathe without bracing. But do not be fooled. Peace is not passive. It is not soft. It is not fragile. Peace is a warrior's prize. And once you have it, you must learn to defend it. Because the world will not applaud your peace. It will challenge it, test it, try to infiltrate it. Old triggers will knock. Old patterns will whisper. Old people will return rebranded in sweet language. And you will be tempted to explain, to fix, to re-engage. Do not. Your silence is not cruelty. Your distance is not punishment. It is protection. You are not cold. You are clear. And clarity is your shield now. Protecting your peace means learning the sacred art of no. No to conversations that leave your spirit drained. No to obligations that do not align with your values. No to roles that reduce you. No to energy that feels chaotic, rushed, forceful. Your nervous system knows. Your body always tells the truth. Listen to it. If something costs your peace, it is too expensive. No matter how shiny it looks, no matter how sweetly it speaks. If it robs your inner stillness, it is a thief. And you owe nothing to thieves. You will have to get comfortable being misunderstood. When you stop explaining yourself, people will fill the silence with their own stories. Let them. You are no longer available for arguments that pull you back into proving. You are no longer explaining your boundaries. You are simply living them. And if someone cannot handle your wholeness without you shrinking, they were not meant to be in your peace. Do not confuse drama for passion, chaos for connection, intensity for intimacy. Some of the loudest voices in your life were never your allies. They were just noise you learned to interpret as love. But love does not demand your exhaustion. It does not leave you questioning your worth. It does not trigger survival in your body. Real love supports your peace. Real love respects your boundaries. Real love does not fight for your attention. It meets you where your peace lives. You must also protect your peace from yourself, from the parts of you that are addicted to conflict, to urgency, to struggle. You may find yourself reaching for stress even when things are calm. That is trauma, looking for home. That is the nervous system craving what it once knew. Sit with it. Remind yourself, I am safe now. I do not need to suffer to earn rest. I do not need to prove to be worthy. Then breathe. Choose slowness. Choose stillness. Choose again. Peace will change your relationships. Some will fall away, not in bitterness but in quiet conclusion, because peace and dysfunction cannot share the same house, and that is okay. Let what must fall, fall. Let who must go, go. Peace is not about keeping everyone around you comfortable. It is about keeping yourself honest, alive, whole. The practical side of peace is found in rhythms, in how you start your mornings, in what you consume with your eyes and ears, in the boundaries you set around your time, in the environments you choose. Peace is not a one-time decision. It is a daily practice. You build it with your habits. You guard it with your standards. You reinforce it with your choices. And yes, there will be moments when the old life calls, when the drama feels tempting, when the noise feels familiar. But remember, you already know where that road leads. You already paid the toll with your health, your joy, your self-respect. You do not owe it another mile. Let peace be your compass now, not comfort, not familiarity. Peace. Eventually, peace becomes who you are, not something you protect, but something you embody. Your energy walks into a room and changes the temperature, not because you force it, but because you carry stillness like a lighthouse carries light. You become unshakable, not because life is perfect, but because your inner world is no longer chaotic. And that is the highest freedom of all. So protect it, fiercely, tenderly, without guilt, without apology. You did not come this far to lose yourself again. Chapter 12. Embody the life you no longer have to escape from. You have spent too long dreaming of a life you could finally rest in, a life you would not need vacations from, a life where you did not have to fantasize about being someone else, somewhere else living something else. And now that you have burned the false self buried, the lies walked through fire and chosen truth over comfort, now you stand at the edge of something sacred embodiment. This is the part no one prepares you for, not the pain of breaking, but the responsibility of becoming. Because once you have dismantled the illusions, you must choose what to do with what remains. And what remains is you, raw, real, unmasked. No longer a shadow of your former life, no longer a dreamer hoping for permission, but a creator, a sovereign soul with power in their bones. This is the moment to embody. To not just believe you deserve more, but to live like it. Embodying your new life means waking up with intention, not urgency. It means walking through your days from a place of truth, not performance. It means no longer seeking to be chosen because you already chose yourself. It means dressing for who you are becoming, speaking from the core of your being, acting like peace is your baseline, not a vacation, but a home. Embodiment is not a thought, it is a rhythm. It is how you move, how you breathe, how you are. The old self dreamed, the new self decides. The old self asked for permission, the new self grants it. The old self played a role, the new self writes the script, and that shift changes everything. You are no longer outsourcing your worth. You are no longer editing your light to fit into small rooms. You are no longer shrinking to make others feel safe. You walk into every space knowing I am whole, I am aligned, I am here to be, not to perform. But embodiment is not aesthetic. It is not curated joy. It is not a social media highlight reel. It is what you do when no one is watching, when the cameras are off, when the crowd is gone. It is how you speak to yourself in the mirror, how you hold space for your emotions, how you respond when life punches you in the mouth. Anyone can talk healing. Anyone can wear the clothes of growth. But embodiment is proven in pressure. It shows up in how you hold the line when the wind rises. This is also the chapter of integration. No more compartmentalizing. No more being spiritual in the morning and resentful at night. No more being kind to strangers and cruel to yourself. Embodiment is consistency, not perfection, but alignment. Who you say you are and how you live must now match. Your identity and your energy must now sync. Otherwise, the gap between who you are and how you act will eat your peace alive. You cannot build a new life with old habits. You cannot speak love and live in fear. You cannot declare abundance and still cling to scarcity. That is self-betrayal in disguise. So you begin to audit your actions. You begin to ask, is this in integrity with who I am becoming? Does this choice honor my future? Does this relationship align with the version of me I now embody? And if the answer is no, you adjust. Quickly, clearly, without drama. That is maturity. That is power. You also begin to hold yourself to new standards, not from shame, but from reverence, because now you know your value. You know what you cost. You know how many nights you cried just to get here. So no, you will not tolerate low-frequency energy anymore. You will not entertain drama. You will not beg for crumbs. You will not break your own heart to keep someone else's comfort. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your energy is sacred currency. Embodying your truth means you no longer chase love. You are love. You no longer beg for clarity. You live clarity. You no longer wait for the world to catch up. You become the evidence, the lighthouse, the living reminder that it is possible to be free, real, soft, strong, grounded, and unshakable all at once. And yes, the world may push back, because when you walk in truth, you shine light on the shadows others still hide in. Do not dim, do not apologize. You are not arrogant. You are aligned. You are not intense. You are awake. You are not difficult. You are divine. Do not explain that to people committed to misunderstanding you. Your presence is your explanation now. Your alignment is your proof. The embodiment phase also brings joy, not the temporary high of escape, but the steady warmth of home. You laugh differently. You breathe deeper. You taste your food. You move through the world with presence, because you are no longer rehearsing a life. You are living it, not perfectly but powerfully, not for applause but for truth. You design your space to reflect your peace. You tend to your body not as punishment but as devotion. You speak from the soul, not from survival. You take up space not because you are trying to prove anything, but because you are no longer afraid of your own light. And slowly the gap closes. You are no longer becoming. You are. This is not the end of the journey. It is the embodiment of it. The day your life finally reflects the inner work. The moment your reality matches your soul, and when someone asks, "How did you get here?" you smile. Not with pride, but with peace. Because you know you paid the price, and you know the price was worth it. This is the life you no longer need to escape from, because it is finally the life that came from your truth, not your wounds. Chapter 13. Let the new you be seen. You did not rise from your own ashes just to hide again. You did not break the chains, sever the patterns, silence the noise, and rebuild your soul, only to keep it locked behind closed doors. This is the chapter where you stop hiding. This is where you take the version of you that you fought to become and bring them into the world, fully, boldly, completely. Because healing without expression is another form of suppression, and freedom without visibility is just another quiet cage. The final test of transformation is not what you know within. It is what you are willing to show without. Not performance, not pretense, presence. Real, unfiltered presence. The kind that does not adjust its tone to make others comfortable. The kind that does not shrink under the weight of expectation. The kind that no longer waits for the room to be safe before it breathes fully. This is your moment to show up not as the idea of who you are, but as the embodiment of who you have become. You were taught to dim, to make yourself digestible, to be palatable in your opinions, polite in your dreams, to whisper when your soul wanted to shout, and it kept you safe, until it began to kill you. That slow death of invisibility, that ache that came from being praised but not seen, accepted but not known, loved but only in fragments. That is the kind of love you now leave behind, because it never held the full weight of who you are. Let the new you be seen, let the world adjust, or let it turn away. But do not hide, not this time. You know what it cost to get here. You remember the nights no one saw. You remember the boundaries you had to set, the silence you had to walk through, the grief you had to survive. So no, this light is not arrogance. It is evidence, proof that you did not drown, proof that your truth did not die in the fire. Visibility is vulnerability. It means you will be misunderstood, judged, mocked, but it also means you will be felt, resonated with, recognized. There are people praying for a permission slip to rise, and when they see you in your authenticity, you become that permission, not by preaching, by being. That is how movements are born, not from noise, from presence. From one person daring to live so honestly, others remember they can too. But do not wait for the world to validate the new you. Validation is a fading echo. Visibility must be self-led. You must look in the mirror and say, "I see you now, I believe in you now, I trust you now." Because when your belief becomes your anchor, no rejection can dislodge you. When your self-approval becomes your compass, no detour can mislead you. You are not here to be everyone's preference. You are here to be your truth, in a world built on compromise. This means you speak up when it is uncomfortable. You share your vision before it is fully understood. You say no when people expect a yes. You walk away when the energy does not match your frequency. And you do all of this without needing to explain, without over-apologizing, without softening your edges to ease their discomfort. You are not here to fit in. You are here to stand out, to rise up, to be the evidence of what is possible when someone refuses to stay buried. You will feel resistance from old parts of you, from people who miss your smaller self, from environments that once welcomed you only in your edited form. Do not negotiate with that resistance. Let it come, let it howl, but do not let it hold you. You are not who you used to be. You are not a project. You are a presence. You are not a work in progress. You are a work of awakening. And your light, yes, your light is the final part of this healing. Let them see you, not because you owe it to them, but because you owe it to yourself. Let the healed parts of you have a voice. Let the boundaries you set become standards. Let your joy be loud, your truth be clear, your peace be non-negotiable. This is not arrogance, this is reclamation. This is what it looks like when someone returns home to themselves and refuses to shrink again. Let the new you be seen in how you walk into rooms, in how you speak your mind, in how you hold eye contact with yourself, in how you choose relationships, environments, commitments. Let it be seen in your rituals, in your silence, in your laughter. Let it be seen not through force but through flow, not through trying but through being, not through needing attention but through embodying alignment. This visibility is not about performance, it is about presence, real presence. You are not here to prove anything. You are here to be something, something grounded, something whole, something real, and the people who cannot receive that, let them walk. Your truth is not a negotiation, it is a vibration, and those who are ready for it will rise to meet you. This is your becoming in full bloom, not hidden, not waiting, not apologizing. You are here now, and you are not going back. The mirror of mindset. Now that you have burned, rebuilt, and risen, there is one more place to return before the final leap. The mirror. Not the one hanging on your wall, but the one that lives inside your mind. The one that reflects not how you look, but how you see. Because your life does not move in the direction of your goals. It moves in the direction of your standards, your identity, your mindset, that silent conversation between you and yourself when no one else is around. This is where everything is either rooted or ruined. Your beliefs. They are not just thoughts, they are blueprints, and most of them are inherited, implanted, invisible. They do not shout, they whisper. You hear them when you reach for more, and something inside says, that is too much. You feel them when love knocks, and a voice says, you are not worthy of that. You obey them when opportunity appears, and fear replies, play small, stay safe, disappear. These are not random doubts. These are ancient programs, and unless you reset them, they will rebuild the prison you just escaped. So pause now, ask the deeper questions. Not what do I want? That is surface level. Ask, what do I believe I deserve? Not what am I chasing? Ask, what am I still tolerating? These questions are not convenient, but they are necessary, because they pull you into the truth. And truth, not effort, is what breaks cycles. What you believe sets the ceiling on what you allow. You will never rise above the identity you are loyal to, and most are loyal to limitation. Do not confuse confidence with arrogance. This is not about fake power. This is about deep self-regard, the kind that no longer negotiates with pain, the kind that no longer seeks proof to believe in itself. You do not need evidence. You are the evidence. You survived. You stayed. You rebuilt. Now you must learn to hold the expansion, not sabotage it, not shrink it. Hold it with grace, with structure, with strength. Here is the shift. You stop asking for permission. You stop auditioning for rooms that cannot hold your vision. You stop explaining yourself to people who benefit from your confusion. You stop waiting to feel ready, and you begin moving as if it is already done. Because mindset is not a motivational trick. It is a system of self-respect. It is the tone of your inner world, and when you raise that tone, your life starts to match. You must ask yourself now, what kind of person lives the life I want? How do they speak? How do they move? How do they respond when triggered? How do they protect their energy, hold their boundaries, direct their time, and then be that person? Not tomorrow, not when it is easy, now, especially now, because your future is not built in your peaks. It is built in your pivots, in your patterns, in the way you respond when no one is watching. This is where the mind must come into alignment. No more war inside. No more wrestling with the same lie. No more feeding your doubt with attention. Begin to notice the way you talk to yourself. That tone, that judgment, that impatience. Would you speak to a child like that? Would you speak to someone you love like that? Then stop doing it to yourself. You cannot heal what you still shame. You cannot embody what you do not believe. Reset your internal language, not with fake affirmations, with truth. I am not behind. I am becoming. I am not unworthy. I am unlearning. I am not lost. I am realigning. Speak to yourself like someone who knows their value, not someone trying to earn it. Because what you say internally creates what you allow externally. Words become worldview. Language becomes lifestyle. Now draw your line, not with anger, with clarity. What are your new standards? What are you no longer available for? What conversations steal your energy? What choices betray your becoming? Who do you become when you stop being afraid of losing people? Let these questions shape your code, your new creed. Because if you do not define your standards, your past will define them for you. And your past knows only how to survive, not how to soar. And when fear rises, as it will, you reminded I am no longer who I was when I built that story. I no longer live in that version of me. I have receipts now. I have proof, not from others, from yourself. From the days you showed up trembling but still moved. From the nights you cried but still healed. From the moments you wanted to quit but whispered just one more step. That is who you are. That is what you carry. This is not about being perfect. It is about being powerful. Power is not dominance. It is alignment. It is when your thoughts match your truth. When your actions match your worth. When your presence becomes a reflection of your internal safety. And from that place you do not beg for peace, you become peace. You do not beg for respect, you radiate it. You do not seek to be chosen, you choose yourself over and over again. So reset your mindset, anchor into truth, align your thoughts with your becoming, let your life rise to meet the new you, not the other way around. Because your new life is waiting, but it cannot meet the old mindset. This is where you rise. You have walked through the fire, you have buried the false self. You have sat in silence while the noise screamed. You have chosen truth over comfort, solitude over performance, wholeness over applause. And now here you are at the edge of it all. Not the edge of an ending, but the edge of your beginning. This is the final moment where the old world is behind you and the new one waits with open arms. This is not where you break. This is where you rise. Not with noise, not with applause, but with stillness in your chest and certainty in your spine. Because the most powerful people are not loud, they are grounded. They move with quiet fire, with unwavering presence, with a knowing that needs no validation. That is who you have become. Not someone pretending to be strong, someone who has earned their strength thread by thread, breath by breath, decision by decision. This book was never just about change. It was never about fixing you. Because you were never broken, you were buried beneath expectations, guilt, performance, and pain, buried beneath habits that kept you small and beliefs that kept you quiet. But you have unearthed yourself. You have gone into the deepest part of your being and said, I will not die with this truth still inside me. You have remembered what the world tried to make you forget. Who you are is already enough. Let this be your vow, not just today, but every day forward. A vow to stand tall in your identity, even when others do not understand. A vow to protect your peace, even when it feels easier to please. A vow to walk alone if that is what alignment demands. A vow to no longer explain your healing, but to embody it. Not to perform it. Not to decorate it, but to live it. Because this life, this one right here, it belongs to you, not to your past, not to your parents, not to your mistakes, not to your trauma. You get to decide, you get to build, you get to breathe, you get to say, this is who I am now, and let that be enough. Not because it makes everyone comfortable, but because it makes you whole. Let others talk. Let them misunderstand. Let them stay behind if they must. You are no longer responsible for carrying their fear. You are no longer available for dimming your light so they can avoid their shadow. You are done shrinking. You are done begging. You are done asking the world to let you live. You are living on your terms, in your rhythm, with your own 2 feet grounded in truth. From now on, you walk like you belong here. because you do. You speak like your voice matters, because it does. You choose like your desires are sacred, because they are. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is your one wild, holy, infinite chance to be, to love with depth, to create with fire, to serve with clarity, to exist in fullness. You do not owe the world your silence. You owe yourself your life. When the doubt returns, and it will remember this, you are not the version of you that fell. You are the one that rose. When the fear whispers, "What if I fail again?" you answer, "Then I will rise again." When the old world tries to pull you back, smile, thank it for its lessons, and walk on. You are not who you were. You are not who they remember. You are someone new, someone sacred, someone sovereign. Your new life is not a fantasy. It is already here. It exists in the way you breathe now, in the way you say no, in the way you love yourself in the dark, in the way you trust your voice. It exists in the way you wake up not to survive, but to build, not to fit in, but to be free. And every day you rise in that energy, the world bends to meet you. So rise. Rise like the storm never broke you. Rise like the silence made you sovereign. Rise like your future is already here, because it is. This is not a happy ending. This is the beginning of a life that finally feels like yours.